Shalom, and welcome to Light of the Hill Ministries. And today we'll be talking about Philippians 4:18. If you want to follow along, I will be posting this on the comment box below. And now, onto the teaching. Paul has assured us that if we are diligent to pray about everything, we will experience the presence of Yahweh's peace, guarding our hearts and mind in verse 7. And the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding, shall guard your hearts and mind through Messiah Yeshua. Philippians 4:7. However, in the verse, he didn't say anything about precisely how he guards our hearts and mind. What happens if we pray fervently and frequently about everything as Paul instructs us, but then fill our minds and hearts with filth and garbage and lies and offensive images? Will Yahweh guard our hearts and minds with his peace regardless of what we do, irrespective of what we allow to enter our heads? In other words, we can expect our hearts, or in other words, can we expect our hearts and mind to be guarded, safe from harm and the onslaught of Satan, resting in the peace of Yahweh himself, all the while filling it with filth? I would suggest that Yahweh does not honor such double-mindedness. As James says, draw near to Elohim, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse hands, sinners, and cleanse hearts, you double-mindedness. James 4:8. In verse 8, Paulus tells us how or what, by what means and when Yahweh guards our mind. And it is only when we take steps to fill our minds with what is true, what is noble, what is righteous, what is clean, what is lovely, what is of good report. In other words, we must think on these things. We must ponder and reflect and meditate upon such things. We must open our hearts and mind to whatever reflects these moral virtues if we expect to experience the peace of Yahweh, which was promised to us in verse 7. Second, please observe that there are two imperatives, two commands, not just one. People often read verses 8 and 9 and focus their attention only on the command to think. They fail to observe that Paulus also commands us in verse 9 to practice. This is not a call for merely intellectual reflection, but for sober consideration of what is good, so we can live it out daily. So we see this as not the counsel of someone seeking to withdraw into a cocoon of isolation, or someone trying to escape the hardship and headache of life. This is rock-solid counsel for those who need the strength and presence of Yahweh to help them triumph over all such challenges. What Paulus says here is designed for every believer in Messiah who lives down in the trenches of daily life. What Paulus is asking us all here to do is to think about all that you do in your life, whether in your relationships, our hobbies, how we spend our money, time and energy, what we wear, and what we do at work, how we speak, what we watch and listen to, where we go with friends or when alone. Paulus tells us to think about true things, not lies. Ponder and reflect on what is noble and dignified, not what is base and vulgar. Meditate on what is just and righteous, not what is wrong and distorted. Focus on what is clean, not sleazy. Fix our mind on what is admirable and praiseworthy, not offensive and ugly. The repetition of the word whatever all through verse 8 is designed to impress on our heart the comprehensive scope of these virtues in terms of how they are to impact our lives. Don't think of these as simply general principles, but rather bear in mind, moment by moment, that life of truth and purity and excellence is made up of daily, indeed hourly acts characterized by these virtues. Look for whatever reflects and gives expression to these virtues and bring them into conformity with Messiah. There are 8 virtues Paulus mentions, so let's look briefly at each of them. Whatever is true. Truth is whatever conforms to the revelation of Yahweh's will in His Word. Truth, Yahushua says, is His Word, and asks the Father to sanctify us in it. Set them apart, your truth. Your Word is truth. John 17:17. Truth is whatever conforms to objective reality. Sadly, increasing numbers of people are drawn to the outlandish notion that there is no objective and universal truth. There are as many truths as there are individuals who believe them. Truth for them is entirely subjective, which is to say, whatever feels true or seems true to each individual subject is true. Paulus' exhortation is that we are to think and meditate on truth with regard to Yahweh, man, the Word, sin, redemption, relationships, and filter it through the lenses of Yahweh's Word. Whatever is honorable. By this word, he has in mind whatever evokes respect and reverence. Lofty and majestic things as over against vulgar and crude, frivolous and trivial. We should never embrace vulgarity or crudeness, whether in our speech, our appearance, our activity, our productivity. Paulus has in view things that lift the mind rather than dragging it through the gutter. Whatever is righteous. That is to say, whatever is in accord with Yahweh's standard of right and wrong. His way of doing right, and we can only get that by reading His Torah, His instructions. We may also think of the one who is right, namely Yahushua, who ultimately makes us right through His shed blood. Again, we live in a day when any such notion that there is an ultimate righteousness, an eternal and unchanging justice is simply ignored, or perhaps even mocked. Whatever is clean. Paulus probably has in mind clean thoughts and deeds and words. He calls us to fix our thoughts on those things that are untainted by evil or moral corruption, that are lacking in defect and are morally blameless. Whatever is lovely. Here he focuses on whatever calls forth or evokes love and admiration and is pleasing or agreeable to the heart. Whatever stirs the affection awakens pleasure in accordance with righteousness. These are the sorts of things that are endearing. It focuses on what is recognized by the world at large as admirable. Whether a song of praise or an act of giving that someone has done. Whatever is of good report. That is to say, whatever is praiseworthy and appealing, whatever is worthy and avoids giving offense. He has in mind those things which, on being seen or heard or encountered, lead everyone to exclaim, "Well done." He's talking about deeds and thoughts that by their very nature move people to admiration and praise. If there is any uprightness, any real worth or beneficial tendency, if there is anything worthy of praise, anything that exalts Yahweh is worthy of our attention. Paul then exhorts us to think on these things. And what is our responsibility? It is to think on such things, to reflect upon them, to ponder, to meditate, to dwell on. It means to carefully take into account and reflect on these attributes and virtues so that one's conduct will be shaped accordingly. Direct your attention and energy and action towards such things. Give these values and virtues weight in your decision making. Take these things into account in your evaluation of how you will live. The present tense imperative points to ongoing, continuous activity. This isn't a one-time affair, but something that is to characterize us constantly. An undisciplined mind is the enemy of growth and maturity. This is a continued practice, which is the second command Paul tells us to do. And what you have learned and received and heard and saw in me, practice these, and the Elohim of peace shall be with you. Philippians 4:9. Practice makes perfect, they say. And when we do these, then Yahweh will give us the peace that we need to endure the trial and tribulation that is set before us. May Yahweh convict us all in all of these areas we lack and learn to do these things so that we can have that perfect peace we need in our lives. Yahweh bless and shalom to your homes.